The next one we're going to analyze is this girl here in the middle wearing the black dress. Now taking a look at this girl right here, the first thing we want to do is we want to find the plumb line. Now if you'll notice, her feet are a little bit uneven, her hip is a little bit uneven, her shoulders are angling. And this is the beginning stages of now drawing in Contrapposto. How you locate this plumb line always starts with her throat. So take your pencil and come into right on her throat, and you're going to drop this line straight down with gravity. Now the trick is, I've already drawn the line in here for you. But if you're analyzing a picture all on your own, it's a combination of, well, at least you know that the photographer took the picture squared upright, and then whoever edited it probably also fixed the photo a little bit too, so it's totally square upright. So you could kind of look at your ruler versus the side of the paper. But also with Contrapposto, the more that she's putting her weight on one foot, the more that that foot is traveling into the plumb line area. So before we draw this line, let's analyze her a little bit further. So come up in here and let's label this L for her left side, R for her right side, and then come down to her feet. Now what's going on here is this foot here has most of her weight, and this foot here, she's lifting her heel off the ground a little bit, and she has just a toe sticking out. So realistically, there's a little bit of weight here on this foot, but most of it's here. If we were to split this up, it would be 65% of her weight is on this side, and 35% of her weight is here on this side. So go ahead and write these in. Now with that said, we'll know that the plumb line doesn't quite touch her toes, because there is a little bit of a weight distribution between the two of them. Let's go ahead and trace over the plumb line that's already here. So you're going to start from her throat. You're coming down between the feet, but it's a little more favoring towards this foot here. Now let's come up here and we're going to start to analyze the upper body. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze her shoulders here. Since she's wearing a black dress without seams, we don't have any seams or anything to analyze. So if we start with the shoulders, that'll answer all of our questions moving down. Come over here to where you can see her hair is touching her shoulder, and the same thing over here. And basically these are the peaks of her shoulders. Now we're going to go ahead and connect this with a line. And if you notice, if you look at your ruler compared to the plumb line, you'll notice that her shoulders are popping over to the right side. So this time, put an arrowhead on this, but we're going to write the word pop. The next thing we want to find is we can come down here to the bottom of her rib cage area to see what's going on. On this black dress, you can see here is the corner for her waist where it's curving inwards. So go ahead and draw that inward curve. And then we can see basically the top of the rib cage would be somewhere around here. So go ahead and just guess for now. Then what we want to do is we want to measure from that rib cage back up here to her shoulder. And whatever your measurement is, move that over here as well. And then we're going to draw a line. And while I'm drawing in this line, I'm also just making sure my ruler is totally parallel with those shoulders before I draw it. And again, this side has the arrowhead. Now let's come here to her armpit. So this would be the bottom of her armhole level. Find the measurement from the shoulder down to here, and the same measurement for the armpit over here. And then as we're drawing this line parallel, just double check that it's totally parallel with the shoulders. Put your arrowhead over here. Now this part is that upper body of the torso area. So let's take our red and we're going to connect the top part down to the bottom part. For the next part, again, there's nothing really down in this area where we can find what's going on with her hips and waist. As well, this hemline is doing an S turn. It's popping up on her leg and curving down here. So that's not a good reference point either. What we can do then is we can come all the way down here to her knees to find out what is the angle for the rest of these. Now on your girl, it might be difficult to see exactly where the kneecaps are, but if you look at some of the shadows going on, you can get a sense of it. As well, I'll do it on mine right here so you can see what's going on. So I can see here where her knee is bending in, that this is that kneecap in that area. And then here you can see where the muscle is protruding outwards. That's the kneecap here in this area. So again, it's bending in here, it's bending out there, kneecap, kneecap. Once you have that, go ahead and find the centers of each of the kneecaps. And then let's connect a line through them. This time what you're going to notice is the angle is tilting upwards. So now we would put an arrow on this side, and this is popping to her left. So the knee's popping to the left. What we can do is we can use this angle now to come in and find her hip bone and high hip level. So if you recall on this girl, we were coming up to find below the rib cage is the top of the hip bones, and then below that we were finding the high hip area. So here's where we had that curve for her waist. So where the curve is coming back out, you could even see her hip bone is slightly sticking out right there. So this would be top of the hip bone here. And you're going to want to measure all the way back down to the knee level. Take that measurement and move it out here to where her hand is also on her hip bones. And then let's connect those. And while you're getting ready to connect it, just glance back down here and make sure, yes, your ruler is parallel with those knees. Put your arrow out here and also write the word pop. Now moving down a little bit would be, you can just kind of guess if this girl was wearing pants. A little bit below where her wrist bone is here. That would be like the top of her jeans if she was wearing some. So come down just a little bit below her wrist. The bottom of her wrist is here. I'm coming down a little bit below that. And again, I want to have a line that's parallel. And the arrowhead is on this side, tilting up to her left side. What we want to do now is we're going to go ahead and make this blue. So we're going to connect blue from the knees back up to the top of the hip bone. So coming back up here to the torso, we made sure that the shoulders from here to here and over here, it's totally parallel. So these arrowheads are the same distance all the way through. And then let's go ahead and analyze this down here, going towards her rib cage. Put your arrowheads in there. And all of this is locked inside of here for the upper body. Let's do the same thing for the lower part. So here's her hip bone and high hip. And then traveling all the way down to her knees. So when I'm drawing this line, I'm totally ignoring the plumb line because the plumb line is no longer correct for these angles. So this area down here is locked, and the upper part was locked. Something that I want you to try and find on here would be the center front and the bottom of her swimsuit area. For now, just follow me the best that you can, and basically we're just guessing. So it's okay if you're wrong, but just to get a sense of what we're doing here. So follow her leg here and start to move up above the skirt area, and you can see this outside leg, what it's doing as well. And then come over to the second leg and follow along basically what this one's doing. Now on your girl, you can see there's some little wrinkles here, and pretty much right around that area, just below it, would be the bottom of the swimsuit. So here's the wrinkles, and just below that is basically would be her crotch level. Now that we have this location, you'll notice right away the plumb line is over here, but her crotch level is now off center. So come in here and put a dot which would be dead center in the middle of the bottom of the swimsuit. And then we're going to use our ruler to draw a new center front line. But what you're going to do is you need to completely ignore the plumb line, and you're going to make sure that this is going to be squared up with her hip bones and knees. So put your pencil here at the middle of the crotch area, bring in your ruler. So then here we're noticing that the center front had shifted off center. Now if I wanted to analyze this and take it one step further, what I would do is I would notice, hey, I drew it a little too close to this side because this side is shorter, this side is longer. So I'm not quite centered in my drawing. So if I were to come in here and just guess, basically what would be the middle heading back. So from one hip to center, the other hip back, this would be the middle. And this is going to curve and head back up towards her throat area, the center front. What would it be doing down here? It would probably have this leg would be moving into this area. Her swimsuit would be more over here. So then it'll have a little more center and balance to it. So if you need to, go ahead and fix yours now. Now the fact that I've taken this center front and shifted it so it's pointing in this direction before it goes up to her throat, that lets me know that if I line up my ruler with that and I look at these hip bones and high hips and the knees, that they're even more of a pop angle than I originally did. So I was a little bit conservative on the angle I had, and it should be even a little bit more. So it's not very important to do that now, but just keep that in mind that this, from what I drew, it could have been even more of an angle. Let's take a minute to just analyze a little bit more about your model. Draw in what would be kind of this kneecap bend. Here's this inside sweetheart shape. This is that outside plain heart shape. Here again we'd have inside sweetheart shape, outside plain heart shape. Down here, don't worry about doing this shoe that's going at an angle, but let's analyze this one that's straight on. So if you'll notice, the band on here is above the ankles and it's curving downwards. And it's cupping around her leg. So if you want, you could draw a curve going down, the top of that curve, her leg coming out of it, and then the sides would go up and behind. Then down here we have this band on her shoe. Now we're not going to worry about learning how to draw toes and everything, so go ahead and just make this a finished shoe, but noticing where her big toes are here and all her little toes are there. And then you can finish drawing the foot. Let's also come up here and analyze this hem. Now officially, the hem should be curving downwards. But because this dress is so tight on her, what's going on is the hem here is scooping up because it's going over this leg, and the hem here is now curving downwards like it should be. Part of Contrapposto is now that her shoulders are popping to the right side and her hips are popping to the left side, two different things are going on in the waist area. On this side here, the waist area is long. On this side, the waist area is short. So go ahead and draw it in, even though you can't really see it very well. And what we would call this is the side of her waist that is crunching. So come over here and draw a little line, and this is crunch. So this is extending, and this one is crunched. One last thing I want to take a look at together with you. So this is sleeveless. This is curving down into the armpit area. So on the other side, we would do the same thing. So you would travel over to here and mirror it. So it would start at the armhole, the armpit, and this would be coming up towards her hair. Now if you'll notice on this side, this bodice actually ends here before it turns into a little strap. So it ends a little bit below the shoulder level. Over here we can't see it because her hair is in the way. But if we were to guess, we would know that this is coming up. It needs to end before the top. This will curve back to that one. And then the straps will come out of that and out of that. And then if she had trapezius muscles, they would be heading back up towards the middle of the neck area. And these straps would come up and they would end right there and right there. I would also recommend for you to come in, trace off her arm, carefully trace off her hand, the sides of her body here. Come in and maybe trace off her jawline, her eyes, nose, and mouth, as well as noticing kind of what her hair is doing. So starting with the outside silhouette, what is the middle of the hair doing here? And when you're tracing off hair, what you want is chunks. So you're looking at light areas and dark areas. And notice where it's wider in one area and narrow in another area. That's super important. The hair will always be wider where it's coming from and more narrow to where it's going to. So that's all I'm going to do for now, but again, I recommend to keep tracing off more of this figure to get it into your brain on how to draw people.